So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily MCQ Practice. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs through a set of 4 to 5 MCQs. The idea behind this lecture series is very simple. We want you to cover your current affairs, but we also want you to get the much needed MCQ practice from these current affairs. Okay, because MCQ practice would come in really handy for your prelims examination, and that is very important because it is stage 1 of your examination. Okay, so through this lecture series you will cover 4 to 5 MCQs from the topic of current affairs alone every day. And if you follow this lecture series on a daily basis, these 4 to 5 MCQs would add up to more than 1200 MCQs, again from the topic of current affairs alone. Okay, so if you really want to brush up your current affairs and solidify your current affairs for your prelims examination, make this lecture series a part of your daily routine. Okay, enough of the introduction. Let's straightaway jump into the lecture, starting with question number 1. Consider the following statements regarding real effective exchange rate. It measures rupees value against a basket of 40 currencies of countries that account for 88% of India's annual international trade. The base year for rupees REER index is 2011-12. An increase in rupees REER means that India's imports are becoming more expensive and exports have become price competitive. Okay. So real effective exchange rate actually is a real exchange rate. Exchange rate. Like $1 is equal to 85 rupees. Similarly, we have real exchange rate. But real effective exchange rate actually measures rupees value. Okay, rupees exchange value with a basket of 40 currencies taken together. Okay, so there are 40 currencies against whom we measure the value of rupee taken together. All right, now these 40 currencies are from countries that have a share of 88% in India's international trade. So this part is absolutely correct. Now, like every index has a base year, REER index also has a base year. But the base year is not 2011-12, it's 15-16. So this is false. Now, if India's REER increases, then that means rupee is appreciating or strengthening. And when rupee is strengthening, then our imports become cheap, not expensive. Imports become cheap and exports become expensive, so less price competitive. Okay, so this statement is also false. Only one. The answer is A. Question 2. Consider the following statements regarding no detention policy in Indian schools. Right to Education Act 2009 introduced no detention policy for schools up to class 8th. The aim of this policy was to reduce dropout rate in schools which had reached 42.5%. The issue of no detention policy is now left to state governments through an amendment of RTE Act in 2019. Okay, now look, you guys must be familiar with the detention policy. If you fail the final exams in your class, well, you have to repeat that class. We all have faced that, we all have seen that. We all know about it basically. But through Right to Education Act 2009, government came out with a policy under which even if you fail your final exams, you are promoted to the next class. And this happens from class 1 to class 8th. So till class 8th, you cannot be detained in the same class. This was the no detention policy that was enacted through Right to Education Act 2009. Absolutely correct. Now, this policy was brought in to reduce the dropout rate because there are some weak students who come from weak financial and social background. They find it very difficult to cope up with the studying burden in the schools. Most of the times they fail their exams and have to repeat their class. Now, so much social shame is associated with repeating your class that these people opt out of school system and they drop out. The dropout rate had reached 42.5%, and it is because of that alone, to address this issue, no detention policy was enacted. Absolutely correct. But recently, central government has scrapped no detention policy and has put the matter with the state governments. Now the central government says that it is not mandatory to follow no detention policy. It is up to the state governments whether to follow no detention policy or to do away with it. And this was done through an amendment to RTE Act in 2019. So this is also correct. All statements are correct. Okay. Question number 3. Which of the following statements are correct regarding consumer price index? The highest weightage is given to food and beverages category in CPI combined. Weights to different categories in the new consumer price index shall be based on household consumption expenditure survey 2022-23. CPI is used by RBI for inflation targeting. Well, this question doesn't require that much explanation. All 3 statements are correct basically. Consumer price index has various categories, okay, which are given allocated specific weights, and then a weighted average is taken to monitor inflation. Now, food and beverages category has the highest weight. Now, these weights are allocated on the basis of their share in the consumption basket of an average consumer. And this is found out through household consumption expenditure survey. This is also correct. CPI is used by RBI to target inflation. Absolutely correct. All statements are correct. Okay. And last, which of the following is not a feature of Land Acquisition Act 2013? Landowners are entitled to twice the market value of land acquired in both urban and rural areas. Social impact assessment is made mandatory under this act. The act widens the definition of public purpose for which land can be acquired. Okay, now listen. The thing is that you can acquire anyone's land by paying them full amount and taking their permission, right? You can buy and sell property. But sometimes government compulsorily buys your property off for public purpose projects. Okay, let's suppose government wants to build a national highway, a power plant, or many other things. Okay, so government can forcefully or compulsorily acquire your property, okay, for public purpose. Now that public purpose is properly defined in law, but the government wants to make sure that you are compensated for acquisition fairly. Okay, and for that the government enacted Land Acquisition Act. Under this 2013 Land Acquisition Act, landowners whose property is acquired for public purposes are entitled to twice the market value of land. Okay, so if government acquires your land, you are entitled to twice the market value of your land in urban areas and 4 times the market value of your land in rural areas. Okay, so it's not twice in both areas, twice and 4 times in urban and rural areas respectively. So this is false. Before acquiring the land, you have to conduct a social impact assessment that is mandatory under this act. Absolutely correct. Now, previously, before 2013, government used to forcefully acquire land by saying that it is for a public purpose, and the definition of that public purpose was very vague. Okay, so anything and everything could become public purpose, and the reason for that is that the definition of public purpose was according to Land Acquisition Act 1894. So it was basically a British era law in which the Britishers deliberately made the definition of public purpose vague so that they can acquire anyone's land. So to address this issue, government brought in Land Acquisition Act in 2013 to replace the old law, and in that it has narrowed the definition of public purpose so that it cannot be misused. Not widen, narrow. So which of the following is not a feature? 1 and 3 are not a feature. A. Alright. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. Please take a look at the written detailed explanation to each and every MCQ discussed above. Okay. Those explanations can be found in our notes, and those notes are available on our Telegram channel. Now, where can you find our Telegram channel? Well, just below this video in the comment section, you'll find a link to our Telegram channel. All you have to do is just click on that link. It will take you to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download these notes. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.